let's have a look. This is from the weekend, and I'm sorry it's from the weekend, but we would have shared this with you last night, but we'll share it with you tonight. Winston Peters came up in conversation on Newshub Nation. Some interesting conversation. Guyon Espiner was on there as well with fucking Ruth Richardson. Oh my God. I'd talk about the ghost stuff.
Let's talk about that.
Oh my God. And
getting Ruth Richardson out of her fucking sarcophagus.
So
having
let's
to disconnect all the pipes of orphan blood that keep her alive.
Let's have a look at some of the commentary. Guyon Espiner and Andrea Vance were talking about ACT's performance, and I'm actually not going to play Ruth Richardson's bit because it was too much for me. I'm protecting you from the first part.
My head will explode.
I want to
Guyon Espiner and Andrea Vance talking about ACT's performance at the moment, going down in the polls.
It looks like he's deflating at the moment. That David Seymour has not peaked at the right time in this election campaign. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think him and Winston Peters are fighting over the same.
Can I say the look? Looking sharp, like the swish back. It's it's not. I like it.
Ground in some aspects, probably over the co-governance issue, probably in most respect. And no matter what you think of Winston Peters, his timing is incredible, and he has always managed that well coming into election campaigns. And I think David Seymour has peaked a little early, and you see him drifting down and New Zealand First eating into his vote.
Yeah, he's looked actually. I suppose there's a lot more pressure associated with this election for David Seymour as well. He's used to being the sort of the underdog and scrapping up from that 1%. It's a very different position that he's in now, Andrea, trying to hold that vote, perhaps grow it. He doesn't want to lose anything. He can't afford to lose anything.
Yeah, I think the problem for ACT and David Seymour is they've had, he's spent 10 years rebuilding that party and he's done a phenomenal job. Up until 2 months ago, I would have said he was the superstar of this election campaign. However, I think the problem is that, well, two things actually. Christopher Luxon has managed to boost Winston's popularity and the whole campaign has given him oxygen. But also I think ACT's policies have come under more scrutiny now because previously he could say whatever he wanted because he hadn't really got a sniff of being in government. But the more that people look under the hood of what they're promising and what a national ACT government might look like, then
I think you see a policy like taking 15,000 public servants out, and while you might agree on paper with that, I think for a lot of people that feels very brutal. And when you see that sort of policy illustrated and out in the open, some people are put off.
I cut her. You see that? How I cut her? I cut her so quick. It's so quick because I had to, because I wasn't going to do it. Good analysis. And yes, it's been very interesting to see. I'm sure we'll get a poll or two out this week that ACT really, the idea that Winston has perfect timing. I don't know whether it was planned and we can give him credit for that or it was just by coincidence, but perfect timing, and ACT the opposite. ACT is really dropping away and Winston seems to be siphoning them up. So it'll be, gosh, okay, I'll say something publicly. I don't know if this will happen or not, but imagine if ACT, if Winston got more votes than ACT, gosh, what would happen then?
Well, I mentioned a little bit about this on Twitter and various other platforms. Remember that Luxon is a complete amateur. He hasn't been doing this very long. He's a CEO. He's a middle manager. He is politically inexperienced. And when people say, better to have a doer than a politician is really good at doing politician things, which is kind of like reading the tea leaves a little bit and knowing that Winston Peters is someone that if you don't want him in the room, you need to shut the fucking door.
Yeah. That comes up.
Why?
That comes up. We look at that as well. Like, why didn't they cut him out?
Yeah, Luxon has been so confident in his ability, and I think most people would go, Nationals had a pretty strong road to being the government just because people need a change.
Yeah.
In this case, the change is a brick to the face, but change nonetheless. But by not even believing in his own numbers and hype, he wouldn't rule him out. He wouldn't give ACT that was trending upwards all along. He wouldn't give his trust to ACT to be enough to keep Labour out.
Because if he had done that, if he had gone, we will not work with Winston, then all those people going to Winston now because they see weakness in Seymour would not be going to Winston.
Imagine that statement though. No, we will not be going with Winston Peters. We've seen what he's talking about and he brings nothing of value to the table.
Yep.
End of discussion. Moving on.
Yep.
That's
yep.
it.
Yep. And moving on. Hey, can I say as well? It's fascinating to see so many people in Twitch. Actually, maybe we should just become a Twitch show. Like, I mean, normally we have one person watching us in Twitch, and this is cool. If we tell you to go there, because we've got the same sort of numbers watching live right now as we've had for the last couple of weeks. So good on you. All right,
I have to practice my 360 no scopes.
Yeah, whatever that means. I've watched David Packman a few times on Twitch, and he knows all the lingo. I don't know it. You know, I'm not even going to try, but it sounds like you use phrasing like the train is coming, and there are various, like, you can build things up, and I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry, you are going to hear a little bit from that sarcophagus in this clip because I couldn't quite avoid it. But Andrea Vance on Acts of God, basically. Andrea Vance talking about what will happen in the future if we strip out the back rooms, if there's a cyclone. How does that then work? It's a very good sort of a question to ask.
No, I was just actually thinking on the cyclone. You know, I wonder what would happen if we do have a national act government and there are those considerable cuts to public services. I just wonder how the public service would stand up then. It's already been gutted. It's full of consultants. There's no institutional memory there or capability. And so I just wonder if they have 6.5% cuts off the baselines on top of the 2% that Labour's already put in there, how would they manage?
Come on,
Ruth looks like she's got an idea.
We are not getting bang for buck. Not only do we have a problem with the quantity of public spending, it's the quality. It's woeful. Do not equate more public servants with better public delivery.
Okay.
Look, I'll accept that, right? As long as you also accept, do not equate fewer public servants with better outcomes. This is what we've always said. We've always said this. The answer is not smaller government is better. The answer is not bigger government is better. The answer is better government is better. So Ruth, baby, I'll happily take your position on board as long as you equal and opposite that, right? Bigger government doesn't mean better. More public servants doesn't mean better outcomes. Equally, fewer public servants doesn't mean better outcomes. So you got to have both sides on that, both sides. The last little clip I'm going to play for you here. It's only 70 seconds. What do you think about Luxon now needing Peters? Is the question that was asked of the guests.
Ian?
Strategic ineptness, I think. They have not put any good quality thought into how they're strategically going to form a government. They ruled out the Māori Party very early. I think that the second leg of that was to rule Winston Peters out earlier. They couldn't quite make their mind up, weren't courageous enough to do that. They hoped the problem would go away. Sort of had this pantomime problem. Oh, look, he's behind you. No, he's not. He's not actually there. And he starts creeping up. And now they're saying, oh, well, I would make the phone call to him. And I think that, as you said before, that allowed him to start to surge, and now they're saying, but we really don't want to work to him. So what is the actual message here? So strategically, there was no effort to possibly get Top in, no outreach to the Greens. Now, Key had an MOU with the Greens, you might remember, and he also had Te Pāti Māori too. So where was that work done early? They've banked on their strategy to put all their eggs in the ACT National basket. They haven't done any outreach to those other parties, and now they look like they're beholden to Winston.
It's their biggest strategic mistake, isn't it?
So.
And
I think they've stored themselves up problems for the future now with the messaging that they've been delivering this week. I mean, Christopher Luxon's been, you know, pretty disparaging of Winston Peters. And as we all know, as successive coalition negotiations have taught us, the one thing that Winston will demand is that you treat him with respect and courtesy. And I don't think they've been doing that. And it's the same problems that landed them out of office in 2017.
So exactly that. We've been saying this. I mean, she's much more polite. I've been saying Winston Peters is a vindictive old bastard. And if you cross him, he will make you pay. That's how she's saying you've got to treat him with respect. Interesting points, Joey. But Guyon saying strategical error, as you've been saying, as we've all been saying, not to rule out Winston much earlier.
It is literally a rookie move. And now they're panicking. Like, if you see the National Party comms at the moment, it is absolutely hammering the point. You've got to vote for National. You've got to vote for National. If you really want Winston out, you've got to vote for National. And that only works if the people that you're talking to agree with your position. But if they're a bunch of righties Just like I'm a lefty going, the Labour Party is not left enough for me.
Yep.
My counterparts on the other side are going, National's not far enough right for me. ACT is tanking.
Yep.
So I'm going to give the vote to the guys talking to the anti-vaxxers and the people that are worried that the transgender people are coming down the chimney to grab the children, and just absolute fucking nut bars, you know. And this is their danger. Like, I hate David Seymour. I hate the people that he's talking to, but who Winston's going after at the moment makes ACT supporters seem like a sound, reasoned bunch.
Yeah.
You know, it's bad, man. And Winston will use Luxon like a finger puppet. And I want you to hold that image in your mind. Just hold it. Hold it until you feel the blood coming out your ears. It's gross. He's bad at it. He's bad. And all of this seems very bad.